This is episode 43 of the Living Reminders with Mary and Blake.
It's all just a story I tell myself. It's just a stupid, silly story. And I believe it because I've gone a bit crazy, haven't I?
No, Grace. I don't think you're crazy at all. You just got the wrong Kevin.
From Cranston, Rhode Island, welcome to the Living Reminders. It's a podcast dedicated to the show The Leftovers on HBO. We're still here and so are you, so let's talk about crazy Whitefella thinking.
Suddenly I'm hit. It's the darkness of the dawn, and your friends are gone, and your friends won't come. So show me where you fit. So show me where you fit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Mary Larson, and I'm your host.
My name's Blake, and I think I got the right Kevin.
What do you mean?
I think I got the right Kevin, baby.
You got the right stuff,
That is
baby.
awesome episode. And I think the fact that Kevin is saying that Grace got the wrong Kevin is indicative of the fact that now she has the right one. And I think that is so fracking cool. I love this show.
Show is so good.
I love this show.
Good. It continues to surprise me and challenge me. This episode I thought was going to challenge me a lot more than it did. And just want to give a huge shout out to all of you who are following along in our Facebook Live. For those of you who are listening to this as a podcast episode, we are doing all of our episodes as Facebook Lives because it is the final season.
That's right.
Because there is so much to talk about and so much to discuss. So just so you know, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the time to talk on Mondays about The Leftovers. But let's like jump in about this.
You ready to do it?
I'm ready.
Just make sure you speak into the mic, will you?
Okay, sorry. I'm very excited.
You are very excited. Okay, so for now, my darling, Spunky Misunderstood Genius, we're going to keep this theme going. What was
my
your
Wu-Tang name?
What was your Damon rating? And for those of you who have yet to realize this, we rate the show based on how many Damons we think that it deserves. You know, one Damon being that is, that it's the worst thing. It's expose from Lost.
We have to go back, Kate.
Or 5 being, last year's finale or the penultimate episode, like the best show that's ever been in existence. And we base it on the fact that Damon Lindelof has written these. So,
yes.
Spunky Misunderstood Genius.
Yes.
What do you got for your Damon rating?
A good old solid 4.
Really?
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. But for you, that's a trifle low.
Yes.
It is a trifle low.
It is a trifle low.
Well, why are we giving it a 4 instead of a 5 that is usually bandied about?
Because what the heck? Is he the Kevin? Is he the Kevin? Is this show about Kevin Sr.? And this whole time I thought it was Kevin Jr.'s show?
Well, I'm not really sure if it is entirely pertinent because either way, Kevin Sr. knows Kevin Jr. So either way, Grace has found the right Kevin.
She has found one of the Kevins that will most likely lead her to something.
Right.
I don't know. How about your Damon rating?
I'm actually giving it a 4.25.
Oh, you're not that far away from me.
No, I'm not. But
nice.
I'm usually a little bit hotter on the Damon ratings.
You are. So I'm the hard person this week.
Yes.
Ooh.
So the reason why I'm a little bit hotter on this episode is because I get a little frustrated. We only have so much real estate here for season 3 of The Leftovers, the final season. And if this were a regular amount of episodes, I think this would fit right in. But there's just so little time that we have. Do we really need to spend an entire episode with Kevin Sr.?
I will argue yes.
And I'm not saying that it wasn't great. In fact, I loved the episode, but I'm just talking in terms of placement and what we got. Do we really need it? And I'm not really sure that we do. But the fact that we got it is important because we do need to know where Kevin Sr. went, what happened to him, why he went to Australia, and his journey in Australia.
Yep.
And I will apologize. I will apologize because last episode I did say I felt that the epilogue to the last episode didn't fit. Remember when she shows up and she drowns the guy?
Okay, yes.
I felt that it didn't fit. I was way wrong. And the reason why I was way wrong is because you needed this. You needed that in order to understand where we were and what was happening in this particular episode.
Correct.
Could it have been fit in the beginning of this episode? And you have that that TV trope of showing you halfway through the episode at the beginning and then building up to that and then going forward since then. Yeah, that's a little bit of a tired trope. But would it make more sense? Maybe. But either way, I now understand why the Australia bit was tagged on at the back half, or at the back portion.
With the drowning of the wrong Kevin.
Yes, at the
previous episode.
For don't be ridiculous.
Yes.
That's why I understand that. My love, are you ready to get in? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a second. We have all the other people here. Carrie Lynn Rieger Dowling. Wow, what a name. Says 3.5 Damons. You guys are right that Scott Glenn's performance in this episode was epic. But the way I see this episode right now with the opening cover song of Depeche Mode's Personal Jesus and Kevin Sr. calling Matt the first time saying the story is about himself, not Kevin Jr., I'm sitting here wondering, is Kevin Sr. God?
Oh my goodness.
Making Kevin Jr. the son of God?
Oh my goodness.
And if that's where the writers, Tom and Damon, are headed, well, I'm not liking that. Something about Fire Guy asking Senior if he'd kill a baby to cure cancer leads me down this path. And will Senior be put in that dilemma? What baby will be sacrificed? Kevin Jr.? It's a gut feeling only. She's still processing. Damn, she's going to miss this show, even though it makes her uncomfortable. And Denise Stewart on Twitter says, 4 Damons. Don't know if we needed a whole episode for that, unless I missed a lot. And, of course, I was watching a lady do a makeup tutorial at that time, too.
Sorry.
And that was Mary giving a makeup tutorial on Facebook Live. So if you ever need makeup tips, just
I'm your girl.
A shameless plug here. Watch Mary on Facebook Live. Daphne Mack on Facebook chimes in saying, at first I was going to give it 3 Damons because I got stuck on trying to figure out how in the hell are they going to wrap this up in 5 episodes. In the end, I'm giving it 4.5 Damons because Scott Glenn is phenomenal, and it is, of course, directed by Mimi Leader, and she is a rock star.
She is.
I was able to follow the storyline and wrapped up why the woman accidentally drowned Kevin the Kangaroo Killer, otherwise known as Soggy Kevin.
Soggy Kevin.
The photography, music, location, and overall direction was stunning. Oh, and how nuts was the self-fire burning, man. This is a message in that whole scene, but I have to rewatch the episode. I also think Matt is dying. Now he had night sweats, and Mary was still there, so she probably took pity on him and didn't leave Miracle. And Charlie Campbell says, 5 Damons, and I'm trying to figure out the connection between each character that's died in the first 3 episodes. Will someone die in all 8? Also, really love the National Geographic magazine and all the International Assassin callbacks in this episode. The woman's story at the end broke my heart.
Oh my gosh.
And I did like that the all the callbacks to the National Geographic from May 1971 with the bear in Cairo he flips to.
Yep.
That feels a little like an inside joke to me from Damon and Tom Spezialy, not Tom Perrotta, because Tom Spezialy helped write this episode. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But for now, my darling, you know what time it is?
Time.
Let's play Figure Out That Title. All right, Marvin, what do you got? This is your segment.
Crazy Whitefella Thinking pretty self-explanatory. These episode titles, they were meant for someone who thinks hard like me.
Mhm.
There you go. He's this crazy white fella hanging out, trying to, mooch off the Aborigine like songs, these amazing songs that he's not necessarily supposed to know or be privy to. And he's acting a little cray, painting himself, singing these songs, saying he'll fix what air conditioning device is. I assume that's what it was. I have
Yes.
no idea what it was. And yeah, this is his way of thinking. And yet some people seem to feel like he knows what he's talking about. So there you go.
All right. It's time to reheat the leftovers. All right. The details of this episode. It was, of course, as it was stated earlier, directed by Mimi Leader, and that goddess needs
Oh my gosh.
no introduction.
Seriously.
She has done many movies, all very good movies, although I do maintain that her movie, Deep Impact, was only surpassed by Armageddon. And I know it was a Michael Bay film. I get it. One of my good friends, Dylan Schuck, and I have been having a debate about this for quite some time. There's like a 3-year debate. But she also did The Peacemaker, too, if you ever watched that film. And she also did August Rush. Remember that movie, August Rush? With Kerry Russell and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and that cute kid that directs.
I loved that
conducts.
movie.
Yes, she did that movie. But we all know the episodes that she has directed of The Leftovers. It was written by Damon Lindelof and Tom Spezialy. Spezialy was brought on season 2 and is now an executive producer of the show. So he's kind of a big deal. He has written on Desperate Housewives, Manhattan, Ash versus Evil Dead, and also directed season 2's episode Orange Sticker. And the DP, and I need to bring up the DP, the director of photography in this episode, because it was so fracking good. The photography in this episode was unquestionably the best so far.
Yes.
Maybe except for International Assassin. John Grillo was the DP, and he did all the DP work in Australia for The Leftovers, including the cold open and the end of the premiere. And he has worked on shows like Preacher, Luck, Grace Point, and Hemlock Grove. He also did the DP work on Off Ramp, season 2's episode. If you recall that episode with the lady from the GR who Lori was trying to rehab, and she killed her whole family. He did the DP work on that. And today's song, as it was earlier said, it was a Depeche Mode song, Personal Jesus, covered by Richard Cheese.
Imagine having that name, Richard Cheese.
Who does that?
Some mean parent. My goodness.
And the lyrics to this are actually quite pertinent, and I wanted to bring these up. Your own personal Jesus, feeling unknown, and you're all alone, flesh and bone. By the telephone, lift up the receiver. I will make you a believer. I will deliver. You know I'm a forgiver. Reach out and touch faith. Your own personal Jesus. Reach out and touch faith. So you actually seen Kevin Sr. do all of these things in this entire episode. Calling Matt Jameson, reaching out, being alone for most of the episode.
Oh, the poor thing.
Yeah, this was like
he didn't even have a shoe.
This was like Castaway, but Australia style.
But no volleyball.
And no Wilson.
Yes.
Wilson. No Wilson. And it's great because it really fits into what Kevin is trying to say. He's creating his own personal Jesus, his own personal savior.
Yep.
And maybe he thinks that's him. Maybe he thinks it's not him. Or maybe the savior in this episode is a bunch of random things that they're ascribing meaning to. So we'll get into that later on too. But for now, my love, do you have a story, a personal 2-minute story to share about how you connect?
Oh, it's my turn?
If you'd like me to do it, I will.
But how I connect with this episode?
Here, I'll do it.
Please, because I had an emotional day and I'm just going to lose it.
So this episode, in my opinion, is all about events and finding meaning in them and finding faith in them. And this is actually going to be quite a cheesy story, but I really appreciate it. Before I met Mary, I was working an ungodly amount of hours working and baking donuts at 2 a.m. And I was very tired, very overwhelmed, and I didn't have very many people in my life except for work, which, as most of you know, is not something that we should be striving towards. And then my dad said, "Hey, why don't you try Match.com? Because you have nothing to lose." And I was taking a chance doing this, and this was like before it was still kind of creepy. And it was still kind of weird if you joined Match.com. And I remember saying to my dad, I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. What if somebody sees me on there? And my dad says, that means they're on it too. What the hell do you have to lose?
Yes.
And there was this one time I saw this girl on there, and I winked at her because at the time you had to wink. And she ignored me. And I got really frustrated. And I got really upset. But I stayed on Match.com for quite some time. But I took it as a sign as, I'm just going to be alone forever, and it just sucks. So about 4 or 5 months later, I go back on, and I say, okay, this is the last time. If I get one thing, if I get one wink, if I get one message, I'll stay on. And wouldn't you know, the person who winked at me was the girl that ignored me those months ago.
That hussy.
That hussy ended up being my wife. And it changed my life forever.
So how does that relate to today's episode?
That relates to the episode because Kevin Sr. and Grace have all these different things happening to them. And they all take them as meaning. They ascribe meaning to it, just like how I ascribed meaning to the fact that I was going to be alone forever because nobody wanted to date me. And I had patience, and I stuck with it. And just because I found that one person, I stuck with my gut saying, no, everything is pointing me in one direction, but I'm just going to give it one last chance. And I finally I had that aha moment, and that was that.
Aww.
I met my wife, my gorgeous, outstanding, spunky, misunderstood genius wife.
And then I said, hi, watch the show Lost, or else we're breaking up.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You have to go back, Kate.
I did say that about Harry Potter.
Yes, you did. That was our third. That was our third date, by the way.
You're a
All
wizard.
right, so let's delve into this episode, this crazy Whitefella Thinking episode of The Leftovers.
Can we just talk about the cold open? Oh my God. I fracking loved the cold open with the camera coming up behind
yes.
Kevin Sr., all the craziness from the departure happening, and you see things that are happening, and he talks about, it happened at about 5 minutes after the departure.
Mm-hmm.
I started hearing voices, and he turns his face real quick, very, very subtly, and then you hear, what we ended up discovering to be Kevin Jr. when he was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
But you hear the voices saying, help them. And he turns his face and boom, shuts right out. Oh my God. That was unfreaking believable.
I rewatched it 3 times because I'm like, wait a second, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And his quick jerk of his head.
Yes.
Just as if he did hear something. And amidst all of this chaos, you see 2 emergency vehicles drive by.
Mm-hmm.
So he can hear something over the chaos of the departure.
Mm-hmm.
He hears these voices. I agree. Unbelievable.
Loved it.
I'm really happy you did. Well, that's when it, of course, began. And we get to actually hear about his journey of what these voices led him to, including a chicken.
You know what? I have the sound, and we could explain it, but I think we should just leave it in the unbelievable hands of one Kevin Sr.
Please
What
do.
do you think about that?
Please do.
I used to hear voices. They started about 5 minutes after it happened, after people disappeared. So they put me in an institution. And there I stayed, arguing with something nobody else could even see, fighting it. And then I stopped fighting. And I started doing what the voices told me. The last thing they told me was to leave, to go to Australia. It's a pretty big country you got here. little specificity would have been nice, but I figured instructions were forthcoming, and I always wanted to check out the Opera House, so I flew to Sydney. Bought a ticket for Verdi, put on a nice suit, and I'm on my way from the hotel when this guy, this hippie with a red headband, walks right up to me and says, "Do you want to talk to God?" Well, that's got to be it, right? So I said, "Fuck yeah, I want to talk to God." And he said, "Then you've got to talk in God's tongue, mate." God's tongue, it turns out, is an experimental high-end hallucinogen this guy brews in his basement. And I wake up 2 weeks later in a hotel room in Perth, on the opposite fucking coast. There's a smoldering mattress next to me, a bunch of white dudes lying around in war paint, and I have no fucking memory how I got there or what happened while I did. Also, God did not talk to me. And I'm thinking, this is a fucking waste of time. At best, a misguided detour. When I notice the TV in the hotel room is on. And do you know what I saw on that TV, Chris? A chicken. On October the 14th, a town in the outback lost its entire population. A small town, only 14 people, but all of them vanished, even the animals. Every living thing in that town was gone except for one thing, an egg. 2 days later, it hatched, and they named him Tony. And at first, nobody took him seriously. But then rumors started. Rumors that the chicken could help people find whatever they were looking for. And this is the first fucking thing I hear when I wake up from a 2-week acid trip. It's gotta be a fucking sign. So I hop on the train, 4,000 kilometers back across the country, and I go see Tony. So I give this guy my money. The guy puts the chicken in front of me and says, "What are you looking for?" Well, I don't know what I'm looking for yet. That's the point. I need Tony to tell me. And the guy says, "Doesn't work that way. You've got to give Tony something to look for." So I said, "Purpose. I want some fucking purpose." In that very minute, Tony jumped up on my pack and starts pecking. He was pecking this. On the 7th year anniversary of the sudden departure, I believe the rains will come, and with them, a great flood. I have to sing to make it stop.
You have to sing?
For the last 2 years, I've been working my way down the song line.
So that right there, okay, let's just leave that with Scott Glenn. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy just owned it. He sounded like a stoner. He sounded like a prophet. He sounded like he really believed. He sounded legit. He was involved in this, and he believed it. And so essentially, the voices tell him to go to Australia. He goes to Australia. He takes this massive trip on God's tongue on this drug. And in the meantime, what we know as viewers, what he does not know, is that no, he may not remember it, but he did speak to Kevin.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up, sees a chicken, goes to Tony, finds that he has this purpose, and then he goes on this direction of trying to figure out what's happening. And he's been in communication now, obviously, with Matt, talking about the book, and he thinks the book is about him. But it's not. It's about Kevin Jr. And he gets effing fracking pissed
yeah.
when he discovers that it's not about him.
Before he does, he rips out what looks like maybe one sheet and puts money inside, at least $100 inside, and then he folds it up and puts it inside of National Geographic, inside that copy of National Geographic that we all have been thinking about
that everyone
on the
bought on
Cairo
eBay.
page. Yeah, everyone bought it on eBay, thinking we could figure something out. So
we found out how Grace at the end of episode 2 is quoting the book of Kevin. And we also discovered that it wasn't in the future. It was in the
present
same
tense.
present tense.
Yes.
And we find out that Matt sent a copy to Kevin Sr.
Even though he said there was only one copy.
Well, no, at the time when he says it to Kevin, there only was one copy because Kevin Sr. had gotten rid of it, and he told Matt.
Oh,
if
you're
you
right.
recall.
Yep.
So he was right. He wanted it photocopied because he gave the book to Kevin later on.
Yep.
So there was technically, when Matt said it, only one copy. And Grace discovers this, thinks discovers the page, thinks it's an actual scripture because it's a sign from God, and then starts quoting it, thinking, "Oh well, it's meant to be. I need to speak to my children. This Kevin can do it for me." And now she starts quoting this bad boy. And I also like the fact that it was not the Four Horsemen that everybody was talking about. Thank God. I'm so happy that it wasn't the Four Horsemen these ladies were potentially going to be. But again, more answers for discovering how this lady got the scripture, where Kevin Sr. was, the book, all that stuff. They're trucking along here, which is really good stuff.
So, of course, we're learning all of this about Kevin Sr., that if you think back to season 1, he and Matt were in some kind of cahoots together. He left all that money for Matt.
Right. They were buddies.
They were totally buddies, as odd as that may seem. And, he went through his time in the crazy house. He got out because he started to listen to the voices. And now he's in Australia trying to learn all of these songs, going down the song line, trying to prevent the apocalypse. That is what he says when he gets arrested. The guys are like, "What are you doing? Preventing the apocalypse."
He's trying to prevent the flood that he thinks is coming.
Yep.
Because of the tapes that he was listening to with Kevin Jr. on it.
Yes.
That he taped while they were on a road trip to Niagara Falls back in 1981.
Did you kind of wish he sang "Rain, Rain, Go Away" instead of the Itsy Bitsy Spider?
No,
I did.
And this is why Kevin Sr. thinks there's a flood coming, because Tony the chicken. Tony the chicken.
Great name for a chicken.
Was pecking at it.
Yeah.
And the first thing that he listened to was him singing and the rains ending. And that's why he thinks, I have to go along the song line to learn all these Aboriginal songs from all these different people, which then takes him to our boy Christopher Sunday here, the Aborigine guy,
yes,
to learn his song.
Rest in peace.
Poor guy.
Rest in peace.
And he thinks by getting all these songs, going on the song line, learning all the words, learning all the movements, that he can prevent the apocalypse. Which sounds a little crazy. But is he acting crazy? Like, he seems sound of mind. He seems like he knows what he's talking about. He doesn't seem like an idiot.
Well, in the post-show conversation, I forget if it's Tom or Damon who says, like, a lot of religions come after great tragedies and crazy acts of nature. And quite frequently, these prophet figures are kind of seen by other people as crazy.
Right.
So I'm getting it. I'm feeling it. These people are making a flippin' boat. Like, that's a little crazy, right? All these things are really falling into place. What really captured me was now this question that we have: which Kevin is this story about? Which Kevin will give us hope that the apocalypse won't happen? Because obviously we feel like something's going to happen.
Well, I think the show is telling you that the story is about Kevin Jr.
Okay.
And like we said last season and in the first season, the show never lies to you. It never hides from you. It never says, "Oh, look over here while I show you this." It never tries to trick you. It shows you pretty much everything, and it goes along with you as things happen with the characters. When the characters discover things, you discover things. That to me is important. You have a bunch of shows, like right now, my guilty pleasure is Billions, and it's on Showtime, and it stars Damian Lewis and Paul Giamatti, and it's just not a great show, but it's my guilty pleasure. But they are famous for showing you one scene and then being like the next season, oh, but guess what? This happened after that scene, and it totally changes everything you knew about this character. And it's like, come on, dude. It was the same scene. If you're going to do it, just show it to me. Otherwise, you're lazy writers, and you're just trying to come up with stuff to show me. The Leftovers never does that.
No, never.
It never does that. So because of that, because I think the show is telling you that it's Kevin Jr., it seems to me that the story is about Kevin Jr., and Kevin Sr. does play a part. Maybe the part he plays is that he connects Grace to Kevin Jr. Because she has to speak to her children. Do you know what I mean?
Fracking Grace.
That story.
I cannot wait to talk about this woman.
Okay,
we
let's
need
just
to
talk about
finish
it.
up with Kevin Sr.
Okay,
No,
all right.
she's a whole lot of crazy. All
Okay,
right.
all right, go ahead.
Okay, so Kevin Sr., talk about determined. All right, going through trying to find Christopher Sunday, lying his way. Doesn't even have his ID on him. Why doesn't he have his ID? The police would have given him his ID back.
Maybe he doesn't have an ID. Maybe it just got lost.
Oh my gosh. Well, he gets this package, of course, without even having an ID. He's a great sweet talker. Finds Christopher Sunday, which I just thought was such an interesting name, since Sunday is like the holy day for Christians.
Right.
And Christian, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting name just because I was like, oh, Christ's holy day. Perfect. Anyway, so he's so devoted to this. Christopher Sunday kind of seems chill with this storyline, by the way. He's
Right.
like, all right,
I'll
you want to
listen.
stop the flood? I'll tell you my song if you fix my flood. But he ends up killing him.
He falls on him.
That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible.
I love how he just, when he was with the lady, and he just like, I'm with all these people, and yoink, just steals
the paper.
Just runs away. Like, she's not going to follow him.
Yeah. Wild. He gets thrown out of the ambulance. Luckily, they toss him a couple of crutches.
Right.
Because obviously he needs it.
Because all the people, all the natives of this area see how kind of arrogant he is acting. He's like, I'm an elder. You better respect me because I live among these people, yada, yada. And even when he goes into Christopher Sunday's neighborhood, people look at him like, bro, what are you doing here? Because they can tell that he, even though he tries his best to respect the man and the culture, you can see that he's invading on the culture, and what he is doing is morally ambiguous at best. And that's why I think he gets thrown out of the back of the ambulance and left to go on the rest of his journey, right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. That's the way that I felt. I'm not sure.
This show just blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Because the way that I see that this episode worked, it came in 3 parts. The first part was
Where's Kevin been?
Yeah, finding Kevin. Where is he? How's he been? Going to see Christopher Sunday, and kind of treading that morally ambiguous water. The second part is what we eventually get into, which is this journey that he goes on of self-discovery and almost giving up. Like he almost gave up in the beginning of his story when he was saying, this was like a bad move. Maybe I shouldn't have come.
Where did you think he was giving up? I didn't think he ever was giving up.
I thought he gave up at the end not at the end. I'm sorry. He gave up when he was at the cross, and he just, after he got snake bitten, and he was just like, dude, I'm done. I got snake bitten.
I loved that he got bitten by a snake. Did anyone else? Because it's like the cave woman.
Yes, exactly. Great. Oh my goodness gracious.
You didn't think that? As soon as I saw the snake, I was like, you're dead. You don't have a baby.
Yes, that was
And
awesome.
I knew someone was going to save him. I was actually surprised when he was like, oh, sorry, buddy, I got to eat you. Because when I first saw that snake, I was like, yo, Kevin Sr., this happened to the cave woman. You need to go. You need to run. That snake's going to bite you. And instead, he didn't show any fear. He just was saying, I'm sorry, I've got to eat you.
Right.
Hits the snake a lot. But if you ever watch TV or movies, you know nobody's really dead. So snake came back to bite him. And at that point, I knew someone is going to save him. Because he doesn't have a baby, and it's going to be like that cave woman who was saved.
Right.
So I didn't think he gave up. I just saw it as now he needs to be saved.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll give that to you.
Yeah.
And then we get into the third part, which is his
Grace.
self-discovery with Grace. And what I think ultimately is the entire point of what this episode was about, which is why I kind of get frustrated with the episode, because we saw a lot. We had to get caught up, and I understand the mechanics of that. But the entire point was this conversation with Grace, and everything else seemed to be, as Grace said, as we played the beginning of this episode in that sound, everything else just seemed to be a story. It just seemed to be something that we all ascribe meaning to. And that's why I said the National Geographic thing was kind of an inside joke.
Yes.
Because all of us, me, you, all the nerds watching us on Facebook right now, all the nerds listening to us on the podcast right now.
Nerds with the most loving.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I love
word.
all of you. We're all nerds. We're listening to a podcast about the leftovers, right? We make a podcast about, we are nerds. All of us ascribed a certain amount of meaning to that National Geographic. And whether it was, we thought that Cairo, you had to go to Egypt. Remember Patty saying, oh yeah, you can get rid of me, but what you need to do is you need to go to Cairo, and there's this cup. You got to steal the cup, and then you got to fill the cup full of all, you know what I'm talking about here, all the,
Yep.
and then you got to drink it. And that too was an inside joke, Damon Lindelof messing with us. And everything else with Christopher Sunday and the song line, it all seems like it's a great story, but it isn't really what we're trying to get at here. What we're trying to get at is the human connection. And Kevin Sr. was ascribing the meaning of that. He was ascribing all the telltale signs of, this is my mission. Tony the chicken is telling me what to do. And I have to stop this flood. And he thinks it's a message from God. The same thing with Grace, too. Grace had all these different meanings and had all these different events happen to her, and she ascribed meaning to them. Her kids going missing, the husband going missing. Of course, it didn't work out so well for her, but she thought she had her sign from God. And of course, it was all ripped away, just as all this stuff was kind of ripped away from Kevin Sr. once Christopher Sunday died. Then he's left to go on his own journey. He gets saved by Grace. And then we finally get to the real point, which is the human connection between these two. What that ultimately means is I'm not quite sure, but now we're getting at it. This is almost like the calm before the storm. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that I felt about it.
Okay. I'm feeling good about Kevin Sr. He did, of course, have many interactions. He had the snake interaction. He had the guy that driving that adorable little Volkswagen Bug-looking car and goes.
And sets himself on fire. I don't mean to laugh at the guy, but he just sets himself on fire.
What exactly was it that he said?
He said, would you kill a baby if it meant you could cure cancer?
What is that about?
A lot of people have been saying that perhaps he is. He also said they wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't accept me. And a lot of people are saying, since this is Australia and we just had the episode with
Same
Nora,
place with Nora, the Nora people
that are trying to get her to go into this machine, maybe he didn't pass a certain test that they were trying to get on him.
Okay.
And they told him to go pound sand or go get a shine box.
Okay.
And he was pissed off about it because he wanted to see his loved ones.
But what did the baby have to do with it?
I don't know. And I'm not exactly sure. And it reminded me, I couldn't help but think of, again, International Assassin when all this happened. And it brought me back to the conversation that Kevin Jr. had with Kevin Sr. And I have the sound here. I'll play it.
Feed that motherfucking fire! I think I see something.
Dad?
God damn. It worked.
Where are you?
I'm in Perth. Jesus, we're staying in the same room.
What?
Son,
I am fucked up on this shit they call God's tongue, so I really hope this is real. You get the flowers I sent?
The card was blank.
It didn't say get to the well.
What well?
Take her to the well.
Who? Patty?
Wake the fuck up, asshole. Leave the fire.
What well? I'm supposed to assassinate her.
You're not a fucking assassin. Whoa. Don't fucking put it out.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
still
Facebook
talking to
Live.
her.
I don't know if this is allowed.
That's okay.
Kevin
Got
Sr.
to take her to the well.
What well?
Son, you have to be strong. I love you.
I love you too.
So we were just as clueless about that as Kevin Jr. was at the time. Like Kevin Sr. talking through the TV, they're in the same room. The fire alarm goes off at the same time they're talking about the fire in the other room. He's saying we're staying in the same room. But what I took from this was you can't kill Patty. You're not an assassin. Take the girl to the well. And Kevin Jr. kills Patty. He pushes her down the well, and then he drowns her, right? Because he holds her in the water. And then Kevin dies, and he comes back up and all that other stuff. Great. Okay. Kevin Sr. then encounters a guy wearing a suit coming out and saying, I couldn't kill a baby. Is Kevin and Kevin Sr. said, I wouldn't kill the baby either. And that just felt to me like there's a connection there. Like we have this connection of Kevin Sr. talking about getting screwed up on God's tongue. And we have that moment in International Assassin where they are communicating, and Kevin Sr. doesn't even remember this, but it happened. And they both seem to exist on the same plane for a moment in time. So is this connected here? Is this speaking to what Kevin Jr. has done? Did Kevin Jr. make a mistake? Did he do the wrong thing? Because if you can recall, Kevin Sr. said, I just did what the voices told me. And Patty told him, Kevin, don't drink the poison. Don't do what you have to do. Don't kill me. And then he did it. So did he make a mistake? Is this what helps propel him into what the problem is? So that's what I took from that. I feel like that literal burning car was a figurative burning bush for Kevin Sr., warning him of what's to come and what one should not do.
Holy smokes, man.
Right? That's the way that I felt about it.
Right. I'm feeling that. Okay. Man, there's so many more other things that I want to talk about, but we do need to...
The other thing too I wanted to talk about too. I forgot about this. It felt like to me, Kevin Sr., he was in a desert. It was hot. He was wearing a jean jacket, by the way. Dude,
it had like a little furry inside.
Yeah, take the jacket.
That's his favorite coat. That's like his little blankie.
That was from the 80s, bro.
He didn't have a shoe on one of his feet.
He did not.
Bless his heart.
And neither did the guy who came out of the car wearing a suit, no shoes, wearing a suit just like Marklin Baker, by the way.
Why no shoes?
I have no idea. Anyway, what I'm getting through is this. It felt like when Kevin Sr. was going through the desert, he was tested. He was tested by a serpent. He was even stung by a serpent. Serpent being, Satan, all this other stuff. It felt like a journey through hell. And we have more connections with International Assassin because if you recall our episode when we did one after International Assassin, all we talked about was Kevin's journey through hell in Dante's Inferno. It was similar. It was made similar. There's more connection there with Dante's Inferno and hell and International Assassin and this guy showing up burning himself. Like that seems like there's a lot more there than maybe I'm not smart enough to digest.
Whew. Can we talk about Grace?
Yes, we can.
Holy smokes, man.
Wow. So explain to me the story that she told Kevin Sr. about her kids. So for those of everybody who didn't understand what happened.
Okay. You want me to tell you the story
Yeah.
she told Kevin after he eats her cheese and looks through her photo album? When I first saw that photo album, at first I thought it was the woman from the season opener. She looked like that redheaded, very pale woman who would climb on top of her house
Right.
with her husband and her son and wait for the departure. At first I really did. I was like, whoa, it's that lady. It's that same lady, except this is a different kids and she's adopting. Okay. So he gets to realize that she had a big family. They were very religious. There was a clipping from Isaiah. There was like a page of the Bible ripped out that was inside this photo album. He blanks out. So her story is that she accidentally killed the wrong Kevin. She was, during the departure, she wasn't at home. She was at the W, which I don't know what that means. Is that like a supermarket?
Yeah, the big W. It's kind of like the big Y here.
Okay.
You know what? Never mind. Don't worry.
Okay.
Just-
You want to know what I thought at first?
What?
I was like, is that McDonald's? Because it's Australia, so it's upside down. So
We're gonna. You know what? You get 2 for that.
I didn't know what the W was, and I was like, what could the W be? And I was just picturing a big W, and I was like, it's like a big M. Oh, and Australia's on the bottom of the planet, so maybe nope, it's a supermarket. Okay, so she says she was at the supermarket when the departure happened on October 15th, and that the person took her box of Wheaties or something like that, and so she couldn't contact home because the phone lines were down, and she walked home, and it took her, I think, 2 days or something, and she came back, and all the Bibles were laid out, and she knew everyone departed together, so she just moved on with her life. And then a long time later, they found bones of all of her kids on her property that were bleached dry because they were just walking desperately somewhere, and they all died together.
Because they didn't think that their mother was going to return.
Yes.
Or their father.
Yes, because their father departed and they didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right. And so they got all their Bibles and they lined them up all together.
Yes.
Okay.
So then when she read this piece of paper that was in Kevin Sr.'s hand, when she found him at the cross, which is the cross that she put there from the chapel, which is where her kids died, she ripped this piece of paper out of his hands and she read about this Kevin that is a police chief, who can talk to dead people, who can die and come back to life. She got really excited to go talk with her kids. She pretty much thought he was the Long Island medium. I can talk to dead people. And you know who I'm talking about. I talk to dead people, like fingernails out to here. And
I'm a regular mom. I just talk to
mom.
dead people.
That's right. I had an experience with her. That's a story for another day. So she tries to kill this other Kevin, this soggy Kevin, and it's not the Kevin she's talking about, to which Kevin Sr. says, well, I don't think you're crazy. I think you got the wrong Kevin. How do you feel about Grace, Blake? Because I got to talk about her.
No, please, just go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Girlfriend's a liar.
What do you mean she's a liar?
Okay, so
Okay, go ahead.
She found all of her kids' bodies in this one spot. All these kids wouldn't have died at the same time. Okay? There would have been like a trail of them going on. You're telling me that one snake attacked them all, or they all just died together? Why were all 5 of their bodies together? So that was the first
They
thing.
all died together.
Kids? No.
Yes.
No. Doing what? Like just hanging out? Like they would have kept going. I don't know. That sounded shady to me.
They were scared and they're in the middle of the desert. I mean, they're little kids. What do you expect?
Okay. So explain to me this. Why is she food shopping at 2:30 in the morning? Boom. Okay.
That's a good question.
When you match up time frames, and so it happened in the middle of the day when we watched the departure happen.
Mm-hmm.
Middle of the day, we got to see it. It was daytime. We've seen it many a times. So that means Australia.
No, there's a 24-hour difference, not a 12-hour difference. Yeah,
When I was in Bali, what was night? Blake, there's not 2 suns. If it's sunny on one side of the earth, it's
right.
nighttime on the other side of the earth.
You're right.
So it's the opposite time of the day. So it was like later. It was sometime daytime, meaning it's sometime nighttime.
Okay. It's not 2 suns.
That's
you know what? That's for me.
That's for you.
That
exactly.
Is for me. I get a Maryism for that one.
So I don't know what she's doing. I mean, granted, I, as a mom, and she had what, 4 or 5 kids. As a mom, I sometimes am at Target food shopping at 9:45 at night, right before it closes. And let me tell you, it is like a flippin' holiday. I zoom through the aisles wanting to sing about my freedom. But she would have been shopping at the middle of the night. So I don't know. I just don't trust this Grace character. And could this have been a writing flaw? Maybe. Maybe. I doubt it. I think that this team is way too smart. I don't think those 5 kids would have died in the exact same spot. And I don't think she would have been food shopping in the middle of the night. So I don't trust Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Okay. I you know what? Those are all valid points.
And if it ends up that we're totally supposed to believe her, sorry for leading you down this loophole. This is what The Leftovers does. Once again, it's a labyrinth of plots.
You go to right down the rabbit hole.
She has a dog, too.
Yeah.
And that's like all you hear. Like when Kevin Sr. wakes up from thinking he's, dead at the cross, the first thing you hear is a dog pant. Now remember, last episode I told you guys, in the closed captions, you always see things about dogs. I didn't use closed caption this time, but I was trying to listen for dogs, and I sure heard this dog a lot.
Right. That's
So I don't trust Grace.
okay. All right. But I will say I felt really bad for her. And for a woman that has only been on the screen for about 5 minutes, I was almost brought to tears thinking, and she's telling a story like, oh, my kids disappeared and yada, yada. Like, okay, yeah, great, fine. That happened to Nora. But then she found out that her kids had died and she didn't even bother looking. She didn't even bother.
Wait, so I just have to hold up. So you're like believing Grace's story? Is this how you're talking?
No, I don't know if I believe her or not. I'm just saying.
You can't believe her. This is not, you can't. Like, our writer team is way too smart to make us think that all these 4 or 5 kids died in the same spot.
Yeah,
and that she wouldn't have looked for them. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
You wouldn't have looked for your kids? You would have just come home and been like, oh, they're
Well,
gone.
if you're a religious zealot, if you really believe God had sent a message, and let's also think of this time now, too. The world is screwed up. The 2% of the world's population disappeared. Crazy things happen, which means crazy things happen to people as well. People do crazy things. And if she truly believes God has sent a message, and she really believed that all the Bibles lined up meant that that her kids were with God, if she really believed that, would you put that past her? In this world, when crazy things happen, is it really that hard to think that a woman who is a religious zealot would think,
no, she's not. She's crazy. She probably hurt her kids. She probably did something. I don't know. I guess I need to not discuss Grace, because you are trying to say, let's believe Grace. Let's believe her. I think she's a crazy murderer person who has no problem drowning Soggy Kevin. Something bad happened with her kids.
True.
I have no idea. And she looks like the woman
is
from the season opener.
Actually, she reminded me of no, never mind. Here's the problem that we're facing. You're talking about logic, and I'm talking about faith.
Okay.
And I wonder if it's right to have faith, or is it right to have logic, which ultimately is probably the reason for this episode.
It mirrors the season opener,
right,
of the girl that looked just like this girl, and the chapel looked just like the chapel from the season opener.
It's not.
I know it's not, but I'm saying they chose a red-headed woman on purpose. They made that chapel look like that same one on purpose. There were children involved. It was very important to see this innocent church-going family unit, and 2 moms go crazy.
Well, I also want to talk about this too, because we have this episode with Kevin Sr., and we had the episode with Nora beforehand. And Nora is the person who is of logic. She doesn't have very much faith, as we all know, correct?
Mm-hmm.
She meets up with Mark Lynn Baker, who is trying to sell her faith. And she discovers more about herself in her episode. She realizes maybe there is something else that's out there. She finds a purpose. Either she's going to Australia to prove everybody wrong, or she's going to Australia to see her kids. Either way, she finds a purpose. She finally finds something to attach herself to.
So what happens if Grace meets Nora, And Nora says, hey, you lost your kids. I lost mine. Come with me to this radiation chamber. One of our friends on Facebook is calling them microwave people. I need to see who it was because I was like, that is such a great comment.
Nora refused to accept any signs.
Lisa Gardner.
And she refused to accept any signs, touching the pads, the digital pads, the dead spots that was saying, that people were saying to her, like, oh, that's just the reason why. Like, she couldn't get on the GPS. She couldn't get on the airplane by touching stuff. The credit card machine wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. She had to Hulk smash it open, right?
Yes.
And now we have, in this episode, Kevin Sr. taking all the signs, saying, oh, I got to do this. Tony the chicken is telling me to do this.
Love it.
And at the end, it takes a monologue from somebody else to finally give them a purpose, to finally give them a reason for what they're doing. And I don't think it's by coincidence that we're having this conversation between logic and faith right after each other. And it also, these two episodes come before the fourth episode, which is coming up next, which if you looked at the, it's going to be Kevin and Nora. They're going to be on their way.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the fourth episode is the middle of the season. This is what we're building up to. This is the tippity top of the roller coaster.
Okay, there we go. The final climb.
This is what's going to shift everything for the rest of the season. So yes, was this a slow-paced episode? You're damn right. Was the Nora episode slow-paced? You're damn right. But we got answers, and both stories have now begun, and they're both on the course to collide in episode 4.
Okay.
And I think it was great placement.
Yes.
Of what, again, I called into question, do we need a full episode of Kevin Sr. and this idea of faith and talking to Grace and figuring out children and this and that? Do we really need that?
Answer's going to be yes.
And answer is yes, because it's the calm before the storm, the eye of the storm. This is where we're building up to.
Speaking of storm, I really liked that threw in people building a boat. You know, he's been talking about a flood. It is not like a mainstream thing, from what I understand, that people are thinking a flood's going to be going on. And yet he wakes up and these people are building a boat. Oh, we need to backtrack because I covered my eyes. Even like talking about it makes me actually feel nauseous. Okay, so he had like IVs and things inside of him. What happened? Because I covered my eyes because I wanted to vomit. I mean, you can like describe it in the most careful way, but like what was going on with his body?
When he woke up,
and
he had the IV, he ripped the IV out.
Okay, and you heard the dog panting.
And there is another tube.
There were a couple of tubes
that was in him, and that was a catheter tube.
Where does that go?
That goes in a man's
inside that little hole.
And I've had a catheter, and I've been awake when it was taken out.
Oh my god!
And I will tell you that sucks.
Wait, so he like ripped that out too?
It's funny that he was able to rip it out.
Oh my god, that's so gross. I'm gonna. Okay. So he had an IV and a catheter.
The reason why I say that is because the catheter is usually held into your bladder by like a balloon.
I don't think I could handle this.
And they have to deflate the balloon in order for it to come out. So either somebody didn't
properly
catheterize him, or I don't know, but he ripped that bad boy out.
So glad I covered my eyes. I'm so glad. That's disgusting.
Ooh, Nelly, that is not a fun.
You know what this made me think about?
What's that?
Oh God, what is that creepy movie where the guy and Stephen King and he's mean and he gets stuck? Misery. It reminded me of Misery. Like he just wakes up in this house and he's like, oh my gosh, I like have like IVs in me and stuff. And then this creepy lying lady who's like so sweet is there.
Here's a question that I'm not sure is getting enough play, which is, the people that are building the boat,
yes,
are they really there? And the reason why I ask that is Kevin took a lot of freaking dog pills because he was in a lot of pain.
I thought he was trying to kill himself.
And he fell asleep, and he was on an acid trip.
Yes.
And he walks out and, hey, man, what's what's going on?
They're just taking apart a building to make it into a boat.
Making it a boat and talking about floods. And they're like, yeah, bro, we're waiting for the flood.
I thought he was trying to kill himself to go see Christopher.
Maybe the case. But you would also think that this lady,
Grace.
Grace says
Okay.
she lives alone. She is completely alone. She
Wait,
doesn't when she's talking to Kevin Sr. in the conversation at the table, she
Okay.
said that she's alone. You'd think that she'd bring up the fact that there are people building a boat in front of her house.
That are her friends.
Right.
Yes.
And I really like what they did, which was they halfway through the episode we find out the relationship between Kevin Sr. and the other 4 women, and that he was taken care of by Grace. But I'm not sure if this was the backyard or the front yard, but you didn't see the people in the boat. You didn't see the building when they were dumping Soggy Kevin into the water. So are they really there?
Where are the other 3 horsewomen?
Remember, she said that they had nothing to do with the murder.
Yeah.
So,
but they totally did.
She was going to confess and she was going to do her thing. And if you recall too, Kevin was about to say, "My name's Kevin," but before he did, as he was saying Kev, and then as he said Kev, she started telling her story about I'm going to confess and all this other stuff. And then he says, "I just think you found the wrong Kevin." I thought, oh man, that's a really cool call out right there. That was really cool.
So are those people fake? I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm not. I can't tell you that they are. I can't. Again, the show never lies. So if Kevin sees them, are they really there? Kevin hears voices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I don't know. But I think it's at least worth talking about. And the fact that Grace has seen all of these different signs too, and she thinks that it is now just a story. And we underwent the same pressures that she did, and we underwent the same journey that she did in the beginning of this episode, seeing all these different things, ascribing meaning to it, even though it could be red herrings. It could be all the wrong conclusions. She thinks that Kevin Sr. was sent to her by God. She still has the faith, even though it may have been lost.
Angela Hickey in our Facebook group, I'm just looking at it quickly. She's a brilliant theory. She thought that the people building the boat were actually the kids grown up.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because just there were different ethnicities and everything going on there.
Right.
So, but how many years? It's only been 7 years. It's only been 7 years.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch the episode
but
again.
Kevin looked through all the pictures, and maybe he's imagining these people as figments of his imagination.
Because you're right. It's when he woke up.
Right.
Oh, I'm feeling that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I am really feeling that. Nice.
So ultimately, this episode, I think, is about what are the signs? What do they mean? And for Kevin, what is God? What is for Grace? What is God? Right? What is who or what is sending these messages to them to guide them on their paths?
And what do they have to do with these radiation microwave people?
Well, I mean, it could are the microwave radiation people God to these people?
Well, think about it. They're trying to be.
Is it the chicken? Is it the guy selling God's
it is not
tongue?
Tony. It is not Tony the chicken.
Is Kevin Jr. God? Is Kevin Sr. God? All these questions start coming up because we ascribe certain meanings to them, just like how Kevin Sr. does.
I haven't been thinking about God at all.
Really?
No.
So what have you been thinking about?
Ah, man, I don't know.
Like what? When I say crazy white man thinking.
Yes.
White fella thinking.
Yes.
What do you think immediately? First reaction.
That Kevin Sr.'s crazy? What?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what's your first reaction? Is he crazy or is he not? And that's what this is trying to tell you. And I think that's what it's building to.
Yeah, but you're saying that one of these people might be God, and I haven't at all been feeling that way
No. I'm
at
saying,
all.
what is God? What's the point? Like, what are we just putting meaning to it because we can, or is it something that it's all a folly? It's all. Mark Lynn Baker said in the previous episode, purposeless.
Listen,
is it
season
purposeless?
1? I thought it was aliens, and I'm still keeping that theory open. right? I'm not saying it's still the theory. We're never going to find out.
No, I don't think we ever
No,
will.
we're definitely not. We asked Tom and Damon. They said no.
Can we just talk about Mimi Leader just for one hot second, and we can get into listener feedback?
Yes.
Mimi Leader, the director of this episode, just freaking absolutely killed it. And she, again, solidifies why she is an absolute powerhouse. What she has done to open up this show and open up the visual palette of this show, I really liked it because Australia felt so different than Jardin, Texas, than Mapleton. And it really exemplifies the importance of setting. You need a unique setting to make what your story is to be believable. We talked about Bloodline last season. You never ever see a show in the Florida Keys. It never happens.
Correct.
The closest thing you ever got to was probably Dexter, or maybe, and that was in Miami. But that feel, that grit, that sweat. Remember how all the characters were just sweating all the time?
All this glistening.
It just felt muggy.
Yes.
That's how Australia felt to me. It felt so completely separate from what they were shooting in Texas. Even though it's a similar color palette, the grit and the styling and the way that Mimi tried to focus lots of close-ups, especially on Kevin Sr., on his face, on his teeth.
And his messy hair.
There's that one shot of him as he's driving, and the wind is going through his hair, and you see his face through the rear view mirror or the side mirror. That is, to me, is what Australia is about for this show. And I loved also when Kevin is reading the gospel that he got from Matt, and he's
Which Kevin?
Kevin Jr.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kevin Sr.
Okay.
When he's reading it and he gets it sent, and he says, "Oh, this is the effing sequel to the Bible," and he's reading it, and you can see his face, and he's just getting pissed off, and he's correcting.
I love that he has a red pen.
We're in on it with
teacher.
him. We're in on it with him, and he's vigorously writing through it, and he's pissed off, and then all of a sudden, before we get too sucked into it with him, they pull out and they show him, and this wide shot of him going, "Mother effer!" Oh my goodness gracious. It was serious, but it was funny. It hit all the right notes. And you see that throughout this whole episode. When he gets thrown out of the ambulance, another wide shot of him cursing at the gods. When he's cursing at the gods about the rain, saying, "You can't stop me, mother effer."
Yep.
And, of course, the tape is then ruined, and his purpose for being, the one thing that he really held on to for his kid, is now gone. All of that anguish and funniness and hate and visceral anger, all achieved by Mimi Leader. And I just need to give her a lot of props.
Big props.
A lot of props for this.
Listener feedback.
Let's do it.
I'm starting to get emotional.
All right, regarding last week's episode, Thomas K. Tyler said that he had a sudden theory of the week. Nora went through the microwave reunion tour and now is in her own hotel. And Kevin is trying to get her back, but she drank the water. Hence, no idea who she, Sarah, is or Kevin is. Joel Johnson says, 4.5 Damons, people may focus too much on the timeline since it started before the season and then ended after the episode, making this one current. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Okay. So the episode started in the departure.
Yes.
And then it brought us all the way up to
8 days
Soggy
away or
Kevin.
whatever. Yes.
Okay, 8 days away. And then it went even a little bit further.
Yeah, now we're like 7 days away.
So now we're okay.
We're a week away.
In order to connect to Kevin Sr., however, I feel they had to show what they did. Otherwise, we'd have too many holes in his motivation, which is 100% true. This episode also further cemented the creators' want to straddle the line of mystic and reality. They always make a point of making sure that there's a plausible answer for anything that may seem mystical on the show. We saw evidence of that with the drowning of Soggy Kevin. The woman wanted to believe that this Kevin was the Kevin being written about on the page, which she specifically said read like scripture. The reality of things was that it was just a major coincidence. And in the end, it's fun to sometimes speculate, but I think the creators have done a great job not going too far down the rabbit hole. Ellie Moon on Twitter says, F, 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 F. I think I found my spirit animal, and that's Kevin Sr. He was amazing. 4.5 Damons for sure. From Jess Steenledge on an email, Sarah was Abraham's wife,
Father
originally
Abraham.
called. Gonna sing it again?
Many sons had Father Abraham. Originally called, do you know how to say this name?
Sarai.
Sarai.
Sarai. She was originally called Sarai, and she was barren and childless for many years until God blessed her and changed her name to Sarah. And at this point, I'm just going to copy and paste from Wikipedia. She says, in Genesis 17, when Abram was 99 years old, God declared his new name Abraham, a father of many nations, and gave him the covenant of circumcision.
Congratulations!
Oh!
Bam! Just like that. A winner!
God gave Sarai the new name Sarah and blessed her, and Abraham was given assurance that Sarah would have a son. Not long afterward, Abraham and Sarah were visited by 3 men, and one of the visitors told Abraham that upon his return next year, Sarah would have a son.
You know, just when you're 100, Abraham.
While at the tent entrance, Sarah overheard what was said, and she laughed to herself about her having a child at their ages. And that is similar to what happened with Nora when Kevin suggested, I want to have a baby.
And she laughed.
And she laughed right out. And it's also not a coincidence that Kevin Sr. brings up Abraham this episode when talking about sacrificing his son,
Correct.
Isaac. And Matt saying, that's crazy. He was 36 years old. And Kevin Sr. saying, that doesn't make any effing sense.
Exactly.
So I think
so much of it doesn't.
There's a little smoke here.
Well, Thomas Tyler says, anyone else wondering about the boat builders? When Kevin Sr. walks out, they are all building a boat. Later when he walks out, check to make sure it was the same door, and he said it was. The ladies are drowning the man in the water, and that wasn't there earlier. So he asks the woman if she's out there all alone, and she replies, yes. I was thinking the boat builders were her children, but there are 6 of them, and they don't appear to look like them at all. I am going crazy like the Garvey men, or did they explain this somewhere that I missed it? 5 Damons for sure.
They did not explain it, my friend.
We are all going crazy
we
together.
are all going crazy with you.
Bubuka on Twitter says, I was looking forward for an explanation on the Kevin Sr. scene in International Assassin, but it didn't happen. Oh, well.
Well, I disagree. It did happen.
He
It
was
showed
tripping.
you. He was tripping his balls off.
Someone did say that they think there was a chicken inside that video scene in International Assassin. So we're going to have to double check.
Yep.
Susan
Marone
Let's see.
Crew.
Yes. Kevin
I
Sr.
saved you.
is bat crazy. Trump voting uncle everyone has, but you still want to invite him to Thanksgiving dinner because it's bound to be epic. Amazing performance by Scott Glenn. Just when I thought Nora's departure story was the worst it could get. In walks Grace. Just heartbreaking. 4 Damons. Buckle up, folks. It's about to get real.
I agree. It's going to get strange. And also, by the way, can I just say, I still really want to be as in good a shape as Scott Glenn.
Yes.
Even never mind when I'm 70 like he is. I'd like it to be now.
Please.
Why not, right?
Daniel Duclos,
Duclos?
right? I thought it was interesting. It was a refreshing change of scenery. However, I'm not sure I like the change of direction. If indeed this is a change of direction, I was on board with Kevin being the holy man or whatever. But now we've got Kevin Sr. saying he is going to stop the apocalypse. It kind of feels like it's losing focus at this point, but I have faith in the outstanding production to bring it home eventually. Not to mention, they only have 8 episodes to squeeze everything in. I give it 4 Damons at this point.
Danielle Sasso says 4 Damons, with the premiere being a 5 and last week's episode being a 4.5. Amazing performance by Scott Glenn. Mimi Leader is the best in that final scene. Wow. Even though I was hoping to see Kevin and Nora in Australia in the last minutes of the episode, I kind of missed them, and I agree with you. I think I would like to have seen Kevin and Nora, but I feel like we're going to get that next episode.
We're going to get enough of them.
I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the guy in the suit that Kevin Sr. sees in the desert. The suit reminded me of International Assassin, but maybe he went to do the same thing that Nora is going to do, but they said no to him after that answer. I think they're all very similar.
I'm thinking he tried to be a microwave person.
Scott Duvall says, confused by the boat church scene. Was Kevin Sr. having visions? Also, if Matt has cancer, it's interesting about Kevin Sr.'s response not being willing to kill a baby to cure cancer,
Ooh.
especially since Sr. lost his wife to cancer. Lastly, we don't see Kevin Jr., but we learn a lot about him.
I mean, like, there's no doubt that Matt is sick.
Oh, yeah,
No
that's
doubt.
another thing, too. When Kevin Sr. calls him, he's having some serious night sweats.
I mean, he has no pants on or maybe boxers. He is all sweaty. He has a blanket around them and he is all set. And he and Mary are not doing well, but Mary is still there. So I need to kind of like double check the timetable of when, like what day? Was it 8 days before or was it 7 days before? Like when did Mary say, I'm leaving?
No, Mary said they found out that she was leaving. Well, they found out that she was leaving once Kevin found out about the book. And this phone call, the first phone call, was before Kevin found out about the book.
Yes, okay.
So it's the timeline all matches up. It just showed you what was happening in between Kevin finding out the book and Kevin Sr. being in Australia.
Yeah.
You got it? Okay.
Okay. And then Missy Ortiz says, I guess my favorite part of the episode was the ending and the whole talk between Grace and Kevin Sr. When she says, this is just a silly story, and she believed it. I feel like they are referring to us. Just like when John said, I don't understand what's happening. And Kevin Jr. says, me neither. It's almost as if the writers are talking to us through the characters' dialogue. And I really do love theorizing, though, because it has so much potential to get to different wavelengths here, supernaturally, scientifically, and spiritually. I love that. The 3 S's.
Right.
The supernatural, scientific, and spiritual.
And this speaks to this idea of the purpose and the reason for what we saw with Christopher Sunday and the National Geographic. Perhaps it is just a silly story. Perhaps it is all just stuff that we thought was important, but we finally got to the real importance, which is the connection with the human beings. Oh boy. It is now time. Guess what?
Tell me.
For the sudden theory of the week. Have you got a sudden
Oh my
theory?
gosh. Ask me again. Say, guess what?
Guess what?
Chicken butt.
Tony Chicken Butt.
Right? Okay. It was actually applicable this time.
Okay. Are you ready for the sudden theory?
Yes.
Have you got one?
I already did it with Grace.
Okay. All right. Fine.
That she's a liar.
I'll show you mine. Okay. So I want to give Facebook user Maria Picarello Pepe, I'm not sure, an assist on this sudden theory of the week. Okay, she deserves an assist. So my theory is Kevin is trying to communicate to future not Nora by way of the messages from the doves.
Kevin Senior or Junior?
Kevin Jr.
is trying to communicate with Sarah.
Yep, not Nora.
Yeah, not Nora. Through doves.
Through the doves.
Okay.
And he is communicating with her the same reason and the same way that Kevin Sr. communicated with him in International Assassins. It's just a different medium. But it's with the birds instead of the God's tongue, the drug. Because maybe Kevin Jr. is God's tongue.
Oh, this God. I can't.
I'm just saying that's what I feel. And I listen, it's a take in development, okay? I got nerds down the hall working on it. They're working it on it for me. And it's in development, okay?
Okay.
But that's what I think might be happening.
Please hang up and try again.
Final thoughts, my darling.
I am so excited for next week's episode. We're going to be hitting the halfway mark. I'm ready for this roller coaster ride to really start picking up. It already feels like it's been picking up, and that is one of the reasons why I, honest to God, believe this is the best TV on television right now, because usually it takes 3 or 4 episodes in a season to feel good. It's been feeling good since episode 1.
Right, I would agree. And I could see how people would get frustrated with this because of the tone. And because of the mysteries and the things, like they might be being a little bit cagey about this. And I say that The Leftovers is never cagey. It never.
I don't know what that word means.
Like it's never like. Again, it's never intentionally keeping you out of the loop. It's like, and I'm gonna refer back to Westworld. Like, I enjoyed Westworld. I did. And the mystery of it all sucked me in.
Let the mystery be.
but I felt like it was keeping you out of the loop on purpose, just for the sake of the mystery of that particular show.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, The Maze. It's keeping you out of the loop, and it's showing you different timelines and all that other stuff just to preserve the mystery of The Maze.
Correct.
And I feel like you could, if this show, The Leftovers, were being handled by anybody else, it would probably fall in that same vein. But I don't think that that's what this show is doing, and I really don't think that's what's happening in Australia here. As a matter of fact, it's being vague, but it's being vague for a purpose. And I always felt like Westworld and those kind of shows. Like, remember the event when everybody passed out for 2 minutes?
Yes.
Remember that show? It was right after Lost, and they needed like something else to fill the void. It was like, there was an event and everybody passed out, and it's gonna be vague, and it's gonna be Lost 2.0, and like
it stunk.
It was awful. It was awful because it was being vague on purpose.
But this one, everything matters.
Everything
matters.
Everything matters.
Mark me. It's going to be dogs. Dogs are going to play a part at some point.
Are you ready to close out the show, my darling?
Always.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
We're social creatures. We're all still here. We need to talk about the show. We need to continue to talk about it in between, during the weeks. Please reach out to us. The best place is Facebook. Let's be real. So if you do not follow the Living Reminders on Facebook yet, please do. And please join us every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page as we do this live breakdown of the show.
And of course,
episode.
we always want the people who are watching now or people who are listening to the podcast, we always prefer that you listen to the podcast. We always feel like that is the best way to ingest this show.
Yeah.
But if you want to interact with us while we're doing it as well, it's a cool fly on the wall type deal as we're producing our show.
Correct.
So we would love for you to join us if that is your choice. If that, however, does not suit your needs and you need to get in contact with us, you can get all of our handles on Facebook or all those other things. It's all at Living Reminders, or you can reach us at livingreminders@gmail.com.
You can find our website with all previous episodes at the Living Reminders, right?
Yes.
Livingreminders.com.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've actually said our website. Okay, so if you enjoy The Leftovers, you need to tell friends. You need to tell them, hey, you got to watch this show. And if they're like, what the heck is this show about? Seriously, pull up their phone, pull up iTunes, download this podcast. If they're starting in season 1 and they're completely confused, we have done this for each episode. We've broken it down. We've really delved deep. So if you haven't even heard those episodes, if you're new to us, when you do your rewatch, even go back and listen. Telling a friend is one of the best ways to help spread the word.
I mean, everyone, all the podcasts always say, oh, give us a review. Yada. Like, reviews are great, and we love reviews. But the most important thing you can do is tell a friend that we exist. That way, people will listen to us, and we'll spread the conversation. And by all accounts, you guys have been doing it. This podcast has literally tripled in size since last season. Tripled.
Crazy. It's crazy.
I don't know how it happened, but it
thank
has.
you.
And so thank you very much.
Well, until next time, ladies and gents, I'm Mary Larson.
Or otherwise known as Spunky Misunderstood Genius.
That's right.
My name's Blake.
And we're still here. Okay, Facebook world, it is just you. We have stopped recording for our podcast episode. So excited to chat with you about all of this.
Right.
And is there anything that we missed? Now we can actually pay attention more to the Facebook chat.
By the way, if you think, I should have brought this up during the podcast, but I didn't, because we relied a lot heavily on sound from the show, and I didn't want to keep boring people. If you think that we didn't get a picture of the page that Kevin Sr. threw out, then you're sorely mistaken. As a matter of fact, I have it right here. and I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Oh, I found something on Reddit where someone actually typed it out, so it's very easy to read.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to put it up on the screen, and as it's happening, you can read it. But
Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah, you can read. Hold on.
I'm not going to read the numbers because
well, you don't
it
have
is
to read
written
the
like a
numbers.
Bible.
That's ridiculous. We don't need that.
So, an evening came when Kevin laid his head to rest, his mind full of doubt and trepidation, and when he woke, he was no longer in the same place. He was far from Mapleton, in the woods outside of Cairo, and he did not know how he had gotten there. And so he walked through the trees and came upon a cabin, and when he entered the cabin, he found Patricia bound and tied to a chair. And he said to her, "How did you come to be here?" And she told him that it was by his hand. Though he did not understand or know whether what she said was true, he asked her if she was hurt, and she said that she was not. He made to untie her and told her both she could go free and move, would as though none of it, and she laughed at him with great derision and told how it could not be so. She said, "Get me a cigarette and I will tell you how it will be." So he got her a cigarette and he lit it, and she told how he would have to kill her if he did not want her to go back to Mapleton. "I will not kill you," Kevin told her. "I am not that kind of man." She taunted him, and his lip quivered with rage, and he said to her, "Be reasonable. I mean you no harm." But she would not hear his kindness, and she instead replied, "You do mean me harm, and you would say it if you were honest. You are not an honest man, and you do not know it." And so Kevin took himself outside to smoke tobacco.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that.
Yay. So,
Oh, Andrew Hansen says no mention of Dean.
nope. R.I.P. Rest in pieces.
So, Dean is a real person. We know that. Dean exists. But was Dean a figment of Kevin's imagination at that time?
I don't know.
Like, Dean exists. He is real. But like, as we were saying with Kevin Sr., maybe he was seeing people. He was seeing the kids. Was Kevin Jr. just seeing Dean? Was he a manifestation of some sort?
I don't know. We're going to find out. That's one of those things that I'm not delving into. I'm not delving into Dean. I'm not.
It's a whole rabbit hole that could
I'm in
go
Australia now, man. My mind is there. My mind's on this plane. But you know where my mind has to go right now?
Where's that?
Has to go off Facebook Live because, alas, it is 9:00 and we need to go pay our babysitter.
And go to bed.
I'm sleepy. So thank you all so much for tuning into our Facebook Live. Apologize if I was a little out of it. I had an emotional afternoon.
Yes, she did.
So we're okay. I'm still here. But yeah. So just lots of love to you all. Seriously, thank you so much for tuning in. It really warms our hearts. These little thumbs up and likes and loves and all these different little things that you're clicking, it means a ton to us, and it really a lot goes a long way. So thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you again next Monday.
All right. Bye, guys. Much love.
Bye.